What is happening, all 100,000 of you warriors out there? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to be talking about the CAC Industries downward venting BCG, as well as their 11.5 inch suppressed only H-bar profile deep fluted stainless steel barrel with a 1 in 5 twist. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I know that was a mouthful, especially on the barrel side of things, but today we are talking about all things CAC Industries, and that is KAK, not the other CAC that is unobtainium and ridiculously priced. The KAK is the CAC of the people. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, if you do want to support the channel, guys, the links are in the description. It will take you to my campsite, which has all the links there, all the codes, all that good stuff, which we can't talk about here on YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. If you guys do want to support the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Don't go into debt for me. Don't buy anything you don't need. However, if you are going to get something anyways, then go ahead and use my links, and it means a lot to me. So thank you guys for doing that. Also, if you guys want to support the channel, it is super played out, but liking, commenting, and even if you're just talking crap in the comments, every single comment helps, guys. And also just checking your subscriptions below. It gives me the motivation I need to keep these videos cranking out and bringing you guys the honest content that we all need today, right? Have you ever been shooting your AR-15 suppressed and wish that your gas would vent downwards instead of out of the ejection port directly into your eyeballs? Well, that is where the CAC Industries downward venting BCG steps in. So let's start off with the full disclosures, guys. CAC Industries did send me the BCG and the barrel. They did also send me 2 buffer tubes, 2 buffer weights and springs. I did buy my own set of buffer weights and springs and a buffer tube before they had sent me the additional 2 weights, springs, and tubes. But that was me just trying to go out and not be asking for things constantly from companies. And also I just wanted it now. I wasn't sure if they'd be willing to send it. Now they were. We did end up using one of the weights and springs that they sent me, which is just the mil-spec spring and weight, which we'll talk about here in a second, why we had to use that lighter buffer weight and the buffer spring, mil-spec spring versus their flat wire springs, which they do have. So of course, in my ADHD fashion, I've already gotten way ahead of myself. Let's just talk about why does this exist? So you may be asking yourself, why is a suppressed only barrel even necessary? And if you are running a shorter gun, an 11.5, a 12.5, a 10.3, and you want to be able to put a suppressor on there, and you're going to primarily run it with a suppressor, because let's be honest, if you're building an 11.5, it's probably because you want to run it suppressed and still maintain a wieldable, maneuverable platform here. You don't need the ability to shoot this gun or have it be reliable without the suppressor, because 99 or 100% of the time you're running it with a suppressor. So let's talk about why you may even want to consider something like this setup here. Now, obviously the downward venting BCG does not need to be paired with the 11.5 suppressor only barrel. They are independent of each other. They're not proprietary whatsoever. They're both mil-spec. They'll fit in any upper. The BCG will work with any barrel. The barrel will work with any BCG, so on and so forth. But they pair very well, and we'll talk about that moving forward. But essentially, CAC saw the need for a suppressed only barrel because there are so many issues when you introduce a suppressor and all the back pressure on a DI gun that has an oversized gas port. So what they did, and they saw the writing on the wall, for me at least, and I think the majority of my viewers would agree, if you're building an 11.5 or 10.5, something short like this, you're going to be running it 100% suppressed. So why not make it a more pleasant shooting experience, reduce the recoil, reduce the gas to the shooter's face, reduce the wear and tear on the parts, and make it much easier to get follow-up shots quickly because of that reduced recoil, and introduce the suppressed only barrel. So that is the idea behind the suppressed only barrel. It's the same sentiment with the downward venting BCG. It is just to make it a more pleasant shooting experience. Vent that gas downward versus out of the ejection port, so it's avoiding a big puff of smoke coming out of there. There's still obviously a lot of gas coming out of the barrel once that bolt unlocks and moves to the rear. There's still a lot of gas coming back through that barrel. So you still do get gas out of the ejection port, but it does make a noticeable difference when you're shooting, especially if you're lefty. I'm a righty, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm not wrong-handed, but it does make a noticeable difference. And I did a test with my Mark 18 to show that, which is a notoriously overgassed gun. All right, guys, so we have the mil-spec or the standard BCG from Daniel Defense in here right now. We have not a brand new mag, so you guys can just see how dirty it is. I want to show you guys full disclosure. So you can see how dirty it is. The rounds are clean, but you guys are posted up right at 3 o'clock from the ejection port. Mark 18, Polonium K, H3 buffer. Let's see how it does. Ammo looks relatively clean. Again, the gun is completely clean. Ammo looks pretty clean after those 20 rounds. Mag doesn't look doesn't look crazy dirty. You can see a little bit of fouling on the ammo, but nothing too crazy. So, all right, guys. So as you can see, we have another 30-round mag loaded up. We have the KAK K-spec in here with the side venting. Very consistent ejection pattern as well. What I will say is it does have those dual ejectors on it, which I think help with that consistent ejection pattern. Again, all that brass is kind of falling in one pile. Still relatively clean. I didn't show you ahead of time. It was slightly dirty ahead of time, but ammo still looks good in there. All right, guys, now we have the downward venting CAC K-Spec BCG. And here, as you can see, there's no vents on the side there. So it's all going down through the mag well. We do have the cleanest mag of all three because this is the moment everyone's actually here to see. So this mag is, again, it's been used maybe once or twice. So it's still got a little bit of carbon on it, but for the most part, overall pretty clean. I should mention we're shooting Monarch brass 55 grain FMJ, so pretty cheap ammo, not necessarily the cleanest ammo out there. Okay, still getting a little bit of gas to the face. I think it's right through this receiver connection here where I was getting a lot of it last time too, but I'm still getting a little bit of gas to the face. Ejecting right where you want it, right at 3 o'clock, just like the side venting was. Let's up the pace with the shooting and see how the gas does. Definitely changes the game when you start going rapid fire. I do still feel some gas to the face. That mag does not look any dirtier than a regular BCG mag would look. Actually, looks pretty clean considering how fast we were shooting and how much dirtier the gun is now. Since you guys are all here for this test, I'm gonna throw the OEM BCG back in here and go back to back with OEM versus the K-Spec down venting, because that's really the test y'all wanna see. All right, I just ate a ton of gas there. That is a difference. After shooting them back to back, 100% there is a difference. Is it 100% gas mitigation? No. I believe if you had a flow through can, you'd still get less gas to the face. Without making you guys wait until the end of the video to hear my summary, I'll just tell you right now. What do I think? Do I think you should go out and spend your money on the CAC Industries downward venting BCG or the suppressor only barrel? The answer is if you have a working gun, no. But if you are working on a new build or your barrel shot out or you need a new BCG or you want to have a backup, this is definitely something I could recommend in good conscience because it performed phenomenally well. It has a ton of improvements over an OEM or mil-spec BCG, like the sand cutters. It is chrome lined, making it extremely easy to clean. It has dual ejectors, so that ejection pattern is extremely consistent. I did not put enough rounds in this thing to be able to tell you this will last 50,000 rounds or whatever. We did put about 2,000 rounds on this BCG through different uppers and with different barrels and all that good stuff. But still, 1,000 rounds is not enough for me to put my stamp on it. Although we had no issues with reliability whatsoever through that 1,000 rounds, it's still not enough for me to, in good conscience, tell you this is going to run for 10,000 rounds and be reliable every single time. But in my experience, I would trust it with my life. From what I've seen so far, it stacks brass in a pile, which is something you really want to see. It's right at 3 to 4 o'clock, the perfect position for a DI gun. And it just works. It works really well. It cleans really well. And everything about it is just really good. The fit and finish is really nice. Again, without making you wait to the end of the video, we're going to continue to talk about some of this stuff. And then we'll go over the setup at the end. But without making you wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes to hear that synopsis, that is essentially the sentiment of this video. Does it make enough of a difference for you to go throw your Daniel Defense BCG in the trash and buy this? I would say no. But it does reduce the gas to the face, especially for lefties. But me as a righty, not enough to justify throwing that OEM BCG in the trash and buying this. But if you're working on a new build or if you need a backup, like we're always working on new builds, right? I think you should definitely consider the CAC Industries downward venting BCG for that new build. Now, moving over to the barrel, what are my thoughts on the barrel? 1 in 5 twist is an extremely fast twist rate for 5.56. The fastest I've ever heard of previously was the mil-spec 1 in 7, which is great for stabilizing those heavier loads, 77 grain, 75 grains, 69 grain bullets. Now the 1 in 5 twist with 77 grain AAC bullets did print about 1 inch to 1.25 inches consistently with me as a shooter. Again, with a 1:8 optic, but a realistic group size, I would say, with a decent shooter and a mil-spec trigger. That is an extremely acceptable group at 100 yards. I did shoot several groups. The first one was a little bit wider, about 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches. And then as I warmed up a little bit, I was able to actually shoot it better and better. And we were able to take this thing and stretch the legs out on this thing, again, with those heavier grain weight bullets out to 400 to 500 yards with the Arken Optics 1:8 that you see right here. So I would say on average, I got about 1.25 inches groups out of this barrel, which I would say is more than acceptable for an 11.5 inch 5.56 gun. The biggest asset of the barrel is in fact the gassing in the gas port. So shooting this next to shooting something like my 12.5 or 11.5 Geisley, which I also would call a highly refined and high quality system, this thing shot noticeably softer. Again, because of that smaller gas port size, it is just absolutely fine-tuned to give you the least amount of recoil while having a reliable setup. Another thing I need to mention before we continue about the barrel and that reliability portion, the reason I'm using a mil-spec buffer weight and mil-spec buffer spring instead of one of their hydraulic, they have these specialized buffer weights and flat wire buffer springs of differing lengths, so you can tune your system. But the reason I went with the lighter one is because the Ferox we're running here from Energetic Armament is a low back pressure can, so it does not have enough back pressure to cycle the gun reliably with those heavier buffer weights and those flat wire buffer springs. So just get that out of the way. I did not test this setup with 15 different suppressors. It was really just the Polonium K, which has a reputation for being a higher back pressure can. That can function very well with those other springs and weights. I don't remember exactly. I think it was the blue one. I can't remember exactly which spring and weight combination it was. I believe it was the H2 buffer. So here's the tube that those guys came in. If you want to buy their setup, their system, it's the K-Spec Carbine H2 buffer tube kit. So it comes with a buffer tube. It comes with the backplate castle nut, the buffer weight, and the flat wire buffer spring, which the weight is weighing at 4.7 ounces. So I believe this is the blue one, but don't quote me on that. Someone let me know down in the comments below. That is the current configuration of this setup. So a mil-spec weight like an H1 and a mil-spec spring will work with a low back pressure Ferox. And if you're going to run a Polonium K, you could probably up it to a H2 with a mil-spec spring or one of their springs. You can kind of try it out. If you guys want to see a whole video where I try it out and put it all in chart form, YouTube doesn't really like those scientific videos. They usually get taken down. So if you guys want to see a whole video on that, let me know down in the comments below. But that is the conclusion for the barrel. So these two in combination does make for an extremely low recoiling and a pleasant setup to shoot. Is there an issue with the downward venting BCG fouling up your ammunition and causing fouling over time in your magazines and causing reliability issues? I don't see any difference, any noticeable difference or any measurable difference between a side venting and a downward venting as far as fouling on the magazine. And again, I did not do a 2,000 round test on this, but in my testing, just have your go-to-war mags and have your practice mags. Have your range mags in a separate bin, and then your go-to-war mags are disposable at that point, right? Overall, if you're going for a new build, if you need to replace a barrel, or if you need a backup BCG, or you're building something new, absolutely the K-Spec series is top-notch. I've seen nothing but great quality control, great fit and finish out of all these products, and I'm pretty impressed with them. But again, if you have something that works, just use it. I mean, it's so often we push this consumerism in this industry, so I don't want to be the one perpetuating that. I want to put an end to that, honestly, and promote people training and getting out and being familiar with their drops and their BDCs and their scopes. That's way more important than reducing the gas a little bit or reducing the recoil a little bit. If you don't know how to stand and hold the gun and present, then it's not going to matter how much, if there's a 15% recoil reduction in your system. It's just not. So now with all that being said, guys, let's go over the entire build, the setup from blast end to ass end, as we always do here on the channel. So up here in the front, we've already talked about this, the Energetic Armament Ferox 5.56. It's actually a 6mm can, so you can't shoot 6mm through it. Full disclosure, I do work for Energetic Armament, so I love this can, but I am biased. I think it is one of the best cans in the market for the size and the weight, because 99% of the time you're carrying around your suppressor, you're not shooting the gun. Now, it does still sound great, but it is a smaller can overall size, weight-wise. I think it's like 13 ounces or something crazy like that. So it's smaller than RC2, but it sounds better still. And it has that low back pressure quality, so it does make shooting on an 11.5 that is not a suppressor-only barrel, it does make those platforms much more pleasant to shoot. But it's in between a traditional baffle stack can and a true flow-through can, and I like that. I like that it gives you the sound suppression of a traditional baffle stack can, while still having some of the qualities of that low back pressure technology, I'll say. Over here on the side for a light, we just have a Surefire dual fuel MD640 dual fuel white light with a tail cap. It's on a Kinetic Development Group quick detach M-LUC mount. We are running the Geissele Mark 16 rail. Again, I wanted this to be a URGI-ish like a clone, but not really a clone. The only thing I will say about this Geissele Mark 16 rail and this barrel specifically, this setup specifically right here, is that the barrel is so thick with that H-bar profile, you cannot put your QD cups, your slings do not work because there's not enough room in there for that QD cup to lock into place. So that's a bit annoying. If you want to run a sling on this, you're going to have to put some other kind of M-LUC sling mount or something on the top there. The Mark 16 rail is one of my favorites. Aesthetically, it is absolutely bomb-proof. It's got a great lockup. I know Geissele, they call them bendy bill rails. I've never had an issue with one. Then again, I'm not beating these against the cinder block to see if they'll bend. They do have these two tabs up here on the top and the bottom on both sides, which I really like, and they have that long castle nut. Long barrel nut rather, so that there's a long surface for that thing to impact the rail, so you shouldn't have any issues with laser aiming modules losing zeros. Wilson Combat Upper, It was just what they had on sale on Brownells, so I picked one of those up, although I don't agree with Wilson Combat and their antics on not having a weapon light. That's ridiculous. We were running a Geissele airborne charging handle. It's my favorite charging handle. And we are running the Arken Optics EP8 1-8 by 28 with the Killbox reticle. It is a phenomenal 1-8. The glass is its biggest asset. I don't like that it's only an MOA. I don't like the reticle. I don't love the reticle. It's definitely usable. Again, we got this thing out to 400 or 500 yards at RPR, but the glass is phenomenal. The 1X is it's very much like my Credo 1-8, but way cheaper, about a quarter of the price. So we do have a code with these guys over there as well in the description. So check those guys out. And thank you for doing so. If you guys pick one up, I really appreciate it. Now the lower, let's talk about that a little bit. Again, we talked about the mil-spec buffer weight and spring in here. That is from CAC Industries, but it's just a mil-spec buffer weight and spring. So there's nothing really to be told about that. The rest of the lower is from Griffin Armament. And this is a review we're working on here in the future. We have a ton of things on the calendar. So this is going to be a little ways out. Plus we have to put some rounds through the upper that it came with. They sent us an entire pistol, but I wanted to get some time more so on the lower because that's what I'm more interested in. Is a completely ambidextrous lower. So the bolt catch, bolt release over here on the right side of the gun allows you to keep your fire control on the gun while you manipulate the gun, clear malfunctions, things like that. It also has an ambidextrous mag release, which I could care less about because I'm right-handed. I'm not wrong-handed. Trigger, mil-spec trigger, nothing really to write home about. It's got a clean break, but still mil-spec trigger, definitely not as good as a Geissele. And you know, guys know I'm a simp for Geissele. I love Geissele products, and especially their triggers. I have Geissele triggers in my SCAR, on my HKMR 762. All my guns take Geissele triggers because they're just simply the best, in my humble opinion. But the selector switch is pretty good. It's ambidextrous and a 90-degree throw, but it's got a good positive click there. Got a flared magwell on it, built-in trigger guard. Really like that. I actually really like the improved A2 style grip that they have on here. I believe it's a different grip angle. It's more like the up and down grip angle, but it looks like an A2 grip. But I actually like it, which I did not think I would at all. Not very aggressive texturing on the grip. I wish that was a little bit more aggressive, but it has a nice little lip down there so your hand doesn't slip off, because it is, again, kind of needing a little bit more aggression on that stippling there. That's pretty much the entire setup, guys. If I missed anything, let me know down in the comments what you'd like to hear or see next about this type of setup. CAC Industries, thank you for sending this out. If you guys do want to support the channel, there are the links in the description for all of the codes. All of the affiliate stuff is down below. Go ahead and check those out. I really appreciate it. Don't buy anything you don't need. Christ is king. Drink a lot of water. Like, comment, subscribe. Even if you're just talking shit in the comments, guys, I really appreciate every single one of you. And until next time, stay safe, stay dangerous. Renjay Bro, out.